Welcome back to the Daily Briefing. We are now joined by Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf, who was with the president during his visit to Kenosha, Wisconsin yesterday. Secretary, thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask you about the National Guard impact on these flare-ups, these protests, the riots, the looting. When you bring in the National Guard, tell me how you see the significant difference that makes.
Well, we saw it in Kenosha very specifically. We brought in about 1,000 National Guard as well as about 200 DOJ civil law enforcement officers. Those are folks from the U.S. Marshals, ATF, as well as the FBI. And so, again, not only those two groups, but working with the state and local law enforcement there in Kenosha were able to address the violent activity that we saw there for 3 or 4 nights. So, again, the National Guard, they know how to do this. They know the crowd control techniques. They know their city, their state, and to be able to operate there. So we've seen it work in a number of cases. You saw it in Minneapolis as well. So, again, we encourage any other city or state that's having violent activity, some of these violent rioting that we see across our screens every day. If it outpaces your resources, call the federal government. We'll provide some resources, and we'll get you the resources that you need.
I wanted to ask you about something that did happen in Kenosha that I think it would be just interesting to get your take on, because there was a young man. His name is, let me just get it for you here. I have it on my phone, excuse me. His name is Matthew Banta. I'm going to show you his mugshot here. So this is a man who is considered a Antifa leader, a commander, and he was arrested in Kenosha. He's not from Kenosha. And he had a weapon, a flamethrower, but then he had, according to the New York Post report, he was already out because he had out on bond or out on bail because he had a weapon. He wasn't supposed to have another weapon. They arrested him again, but then they let him go on $2,500 bond. So if there is no punishment for breaking the law and then breaking your commitment to law enforcement to not have another weapon, and then they're out on the street again, how can any of these cities get control of this?
Well, we're certainly doing all we can, again, with the Department of Justice to try to charge these individuals with federal crimes. What we've seen, and Dana, you indicated, the number of folks in Kenosha, out of the 175 arrests that have been made there locally, 100 individuals are from out of state. So we know they're traveling. We know they're traveling from places like Portland to D.C. to Kenosha to Sacramento to other places. We know they are moving. But again, we're trying to get as many on federal charges as possible. When it comes down to state charges, it's up to the local district attorneys. We see some district attorneys taking a very strange approach and posture. For instance, the district attorney in Portland has advertised a series of crimes that he's not going to prosecute. And that involves interfering with a law enforcement officer, criminal trespassing, and others. And that sets a very dangerous precedent. It fosters this environment that the violence is okay, and it draws people to those communities. So we're not even going to be working at this from the federal level, but also, again, with cities, with states, and their district attorneys.
Seems like it would, and it would certainly help law enforcement be able to get their job done and to do it safely. Wanted to ask you about another topic. ABC News is reporting that the Department of Homeland Security withheld an intel bulletin in July that had an assessment that Russia was going to try to attack Joe Biden for being mentally weak, for maybe having dementia. And now you have some in Congress saying that this was inappropriate, that you should have released this information, that you were trying to hide it. How do you respond to that?
Well, some of the accusations in the ABC story that you reference is completely inaccurate. Again, I would say what we do at the department every day regarding election security and our cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency has been hard at work on this for the last 4 years. We saw 2 years ago a very safe and secure election. We're continuing to work very hard at this leading up to November. And we have called out malign actors such as Russia, China, and Iran. The report that you reference was, at the end of the day, a very poorly written report. I had questions about it when I talked to career officials in INA in the office that produced the report. They also had questions about it. They're hard at work on rewriting that report, putting it in some better context, and I hope to see that report out soon. But again, I'm going to continue to do my job, make sure that the information coming out of the department is first rate. And again, when we talk about reports out of DHS, this is the same office, unfortunately, that I had concerns about at the beginning of August, where they put out notices regarding members of the press and leaking information. And so this is a systemic issue that we're trying to resolve here inside the department, and we'll continue to do that. But we'll continue also to talk about election security and calling out a number of these nation-state actors.
What is your level of confidence right now about how we will be able to keep our elections secure with it only being about 64 days away?
Yeah, again, from a DHS perspective, we're focused on any cyber threats regarding election infrastructure. And I can say that we're working with all 50 secretaries of state, a number of other jurisdictions as well as the major election technology companies. So I think we have a pretty good handle on it. We have not seen any specific intelligence or threats targeting election infrastructure, but we do know the capability is there, and we'll certainly be on top of it.
But not only the capability, but do you think that the will is there? Do you see an uptick in activity?
Absolutely. Again, we'll see in the intelligence assessment that came out in August, certainly it continues to identify China, Russia, and Iran as not only having the capabilities, but certainly the desire to sow that discourse and try to have that influence in our elections. But again, we've got a number of folks within the federal government, not only the DHS, but the IC community, Department of Justice, and others that are hard at work on this issue. And again, from a DHS perspective, making sure that when you go to the polls, that election infrastructure is safe and secure, primarily from any cyber threats.
All right. Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf, thank you for joining us today.